Everybody. I guess we've been going for 10 seconds already. So let's see. Welcome. There's the camera. Got finally set up. I'm back at my parents' place. I've been moving around Seattle a little bit. Had some technical issues, but we got all that figured out. So today's going to be a good day. We got everything up and running. The market has been doing well the last couple days. Now, historically, as I said in the title here, that the market tends to like to go up. It's like to be bullish going into holidays, maybe 3-day weekends, it depends, but mostly holidays, and then also 4th of July holiday. It is a thing that the market is going to be bullish going into the 4th of July holiday. So that being said, we need to kind of think about what could be potentially on the other side of this bullish run into the holiday, and that means that we could be having too good of a move. And so just kind of be prepared that there might be a pullback, or there might be a couple rough days. Maybe we don't know if it's going to be early next week or something like that, but a lot of times when the market just says run up, run up, run up, run up, into kind of something that's supposed to be good, well, that kind of leaves a little bit of a void or a vacuum or something a little unsupported afterwards. So just kind of look at your positions, see what you need to do. If you need to tighten up some stops, just be careful, be aware of something like that. It'd be great if that didn't happen, but I am seeing some things that, last couple days just kind of went whoop, and we need to make sure we're aware of that. So, good morning to everybody. Remember to subscribe, hit the like button, all those kind of things. That way you actually get alerts for when this comes out and when I come on the air. Good to see you, Marco, and everybody else that is popping into the chat room today and this morning. So we'll kind of make our way around the market. We'll see what's going on. I do see a lot of good names out there. We put on some trades this week, and so far they're doing pretty well. And we'll just kind of keep talking about what I'm seeing. We'll go through the general markets and then some of the other metrics that I like to look at. So that being said, if we look at the S&P, the market here, what have we been doing for the last few weeks? Ever since we went into the FOMC right here, and then we just really jumped up. I mean, look, we got a big old gap between price and the 8 EMA, so that was up there, and we went outside at 30 ATR. So all of these things were telling us that we were very, very overbought. And that's why when coming into the FOMC, and this is, one of the shadow trader likes to call it the monster truck rally, which there's a reason why they call it something like that, but it tends to not happen that day. It happens the next day, and I was seeing a lot of indication. In fact, you can see it right here. This is on the 15-minute 50. Notice that price got underneath the 15-minute 50 and the Moxie indicator was below zero. This was something that I was telling our subscribers and telling the Moxie members, and everybody was like, look, this is a problem, and I think we really need to do something about it. So we liquidated a lot of our long positions, and we actually went long the UVXY, which is the triple leverage of the VIX, so volatility. And boy, did that work out well. So not only did we capture all of our profits from the things that we took off and liquidated, we actually made some good money going long the UVXY, and it was exactly because of the setup and kind of just the experience that I've had from dealing with the FOMC and all that. Now, that being said, we came down, we bounced initially off of the hourly 200. That all made sense. You can see here, price back over the 15-minute 50. And then we got a little bit tricky. What I was looking at is a lot of tickers out there had turned, just from going sideways, just from flagging sideways, had turned the hourly 50 from resistance into support. And that's what I was seeing here. And so I was like, all right, everything is looking good. We are back here above the, bouncing off the daily 21, and we're back here, and all this is looking pretty good. So I started kind of go along, and then, surprise, a little bit of a trap door was opened, and we went down like this. Now, I was kind of saying, okay, so this is a bit of a surprise, okay, wasn't exactly expecting that, but in the greater scheme of things, what are we doing here? We are still just flagging, and really what we did was we are at a double bottom, and we really came right back down to the daily 50. And so even though that, whatever the day that was, that it kind of went down, I was like, ooh, okay. Funny enough, a lot of the positions that we were in didn't move too much, and that was a good sign. The fact that we were in good positions that, were just kind of doing their thing, even though the market went down quite a bit, that's good. Good news, good sign. It basically means that the other tickers, a lot of the stocks just realize the market is going sideways, that it's flagging, and they don't really want to go down too much. So as long as you're in the right kind of tickers and right names, then that's okay. And then what you could see here, is I was drawing that we went down a little bit further. Here's our double bottom, and look at our divergence that we had. And then going into the weekend just a few days ago, what I could see was price down and the Moxie indicator up. Now I didn't really want to hammer on that because it wasn't totally set in stone yet, but it was something I wanted to mention along with just the overall double bottom, and that actually worked out. So as of Monday, get that zoomed in, and then so as of Monday, you could see here that price, I think it was Monday because today is Wednesday, so as of Monday, price actually got on top of the 15-minute 50 and held, and that's what caused us to bounce going into this week or beginning this week. Now remember, Friday we don't have, the market is not open Friday, so that is the holiday for the market going into the 4th of July weekend, so keep that in mind. It's a short week. Now the other thing, as I said in the beginning of today's live session here, was that going into a holiday weekend, especially 4th of July, tends to be bullish. Afterward, tends to be a little bit bearish. And the reason I'm also saying that is for now, we are at the upper third ATR of the hourly chart. Now, not terrible, nothing like that, because on the daily chart, we're really just going sideways. Overall, we're doing pretty well. We're making some progress, but we are at the upper band for something like that on the hourly chart. Don't know where we're going to go after that. We don't know how hard of a pullback this might be, but for now, price should not be over the 50 if the indicator is below 0, but we're making progress. Again, I like everything that's happening here. Just don't be surprised if there's a bit of a pullback and a reset, because so far we've gotten price doing very well on the 15-minute time frame. Price has moved up, it's bounced off the 15-minute 50, but it has not touched the 15-minute 50 since it actually started that move on Monday. And so now Tuesday and now Wednesday, we are above the 15-minute 50. We're starting to have too good of a move that it's really pulling away from support and starting to create some air underneath these moving averages, along with the fact that we are at the upper third ATR on the hourly chart. So I can't say it enough. Don't be surprised if there is a pullback coming next week after this bullish holiday run, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. The other thing is, what I want to see is, I don't know if it's going to actually, price is going to come down and actually, sit down and touch the hourly 50 and then move up from there, or if it's going to want to come down, it could even do something crazy like this, pull down even further, and then move up. I would love to see kind of that order of events. We're going to look for a pullback. I want to see it support, and then we'll see it resume, but it's going to take a little bit of work to do that. Now another thing, I've gotten a lot of people recently asking me about the stochastic that I have on the bottom. I don't always use it, I don't use it a lot, but when it looks good, it can be very important. And what I'm seeing here is on the SPY, on the SPY, notice we've got a double bottom. And notice that we've had a double bottom with a little bit of a divergence. The second low is a little bit higher than the first low. And so the same way that I use my divergences for the Moxie indicator is the same way that we use divergences when they exist on the stochastic. So we see that. Notice on the hourly chart, we also have some divergences. Notice how price was going down. Notice that the stochastic had a lower high back there where that started, which in addition was, we could see that on the 15-minute Moxie indicator right there. So we had a lot of things kind of talking to us and saying, hey, this thing's probably going to be really wanting to hold the double bottom. And with this daily chart, especially the daily stochastic, that thing for me usually says we're ready to go up. We've got that double bottom, we've got that divergence. Now what we're trying to do is just kind of get the finer details figured out, and then we can start moving up. So yeah, good to see you guys. Susan, Imran, good to see you always. And let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'm going to be going through some names and tickers today, but love to have you guys leave some comments and chat, and let me know what you're thinking, what you're looking at, and what we can kind of go through. Otherwise, I'll just kind of run through the list that I like and that I'm seeing. Now, as far as Qs, take a quick look around them, and then we'll take a look at some other stuff. The Qs, obviously, they've been very strong, and most of what we've been seeing with them is the 21, 21, 21, 21, and the 21. Notice how price just keeps bumping along the daily 21. On the hourly chart, 200, 200. Okay, so we're looking at that. We're looking pretty good. So just kind of keep that in mind. We'll have to see what it does from there. Then IWM, actually not looking too shabby either. Very similar, I would say, in pattern and look and feel to what the S&P is doing. So it just kind of looks real similar, doesn't it? As far as here, daily 50, you know, double bottom, and we're seeing some divergence on the 15. Not quite seeing it on the hourly, but at least we're moving up a little bit here, so I'd like to continue to see this thing trend up, but remember, there might be a pullback. In fact, I guess IWM is already starting that pullback. So again, don't be surprised. And really, it seems like it's just kind of wedging here between the daily 50 and the daily 200. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this, I would like to see price continue to move above the daily 200, but it's going to probably take a little bit of time for the 50 to push it up through there. All right, let's see. Yeah, Tesla. Let's go with Tesla. Now, this thing's been having a great move. Awesome. For now, yeah, I would say it's overbought. But that phrase, that term, depends on what your trade, what you're looking for comes out of this. Because we could have also said this was overbought, which it was for the time being, and it needed to pull back, do a little work, and then took off again, and now we're at new highs. So you have to ask yourself, you know, was this overbought in the grand scheme of things? No, not really, because this thing is in a solid uptrend, and it, you know, again, 21, 21, 21. It just keeps bouncing off of the daily 21. So yes, this is overbought, but you have to figure out what it means in relation to your trade setup. If you're buying stock and you're like, this thing is in a trend and I want to just keep running this thing, then great. Then it's not overbought for you and you can keep going. If you're in a shorter term something and you're like, oh, you know, this is outside of third ATR and I can't handle a pullback because my option expires in a few days, well then yes, it's overbought and you need to do something about that. Same thing here. It is pulling away from the daily 8. It's outside of third ATR. This thing is vertical compared to the hourly 50. Yeah, it is. So don't be surprised if there's a pullback. So however that works for your trade setup, you need to keep that in mind. But overall, Tesla is in a very good, very solid uptrend. Now, let's see, I had one of my alerts just go off. Yeah, ALT, no big deal. I want to take a look at that one at some point. Let's see, NBY. I haven't even heard or seen of this one. My guess is that this doesn't have a whole lot of volume. Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, this is going to be a little outside of my wheelhouse. Not quite the thing that I like to trade. It's a pharmaceutical. They tend to be very jumpy, gappy, weird looking. So just be careful about that. The volume tends to be weird and sporadic. So I'm not going to have too much to say about this, but it does look like it's starting to work. You got the Moxie price trigger right there, and so far it's been following the hourly 50. But I have a feeling this daily chart, you know, if this is going to behave like a normal chart, the daily chart looks like it's getting a little bit overbought. So expect some sideways to down movement. Perhaps price will do what I call a trampoline move, which is when price moves below the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator stays above 0, and then it'll resume after that. So I don't have much to say here because it's just one of those weird kind of, well, it's also a dollar, so it's penny stock. Yeah, so just kind of careful with that one. A small movement is a lot of percentage, but overall looks like it's an uptrend, but boy, these things can move and flip around on you in a hurry. Yeah, Josh, actually, we have a new class for me coming out August 1st. So we are working on getting all the promotional material, the dates, the whatever, the webinars, all that kind of stuff put together. We're in July. I've got a month until that thing comes out. So yeah, we're going to be working on that. And basically what I'm going to be talking about is the stuff that I've been having to learn and to revamp during this market time with the Fed highly involved in what's going on. There have been a lot of things that just the way that things have been working, I've had to adapt and accommodate, and trying to you know, disperse that into the Moxie service. And so yes, we're going to be putting that all into one class. That way, if you guys want to take this, you can say, oh, okay, here's something I can now add and look forward to, and say, I'm aware of this, because right now the market is really kind of manipulated, you know, and that's something I wanted to be able to put out there and say, here's what I've been having to work on and throw it together. So yeah, one more month, it'll be ready. I got a lot of work on that one. Let's see, RSI, assuming that is a ticker, but it's not. So RSI instead of relative strength index. So Nihal, if you want to send that one again, let me know if there's a typo on that one. All right, so some of the ones that I'm looking at, space. Now, space got a deal or some agreement with NASA a little while ago, and that's why they popped. And I took the chance to see if they wanted to pop and go. And I thought, you know, if this is going to run, Come on, here we go. I was like, if this thing is going to run, it should run here, but it didn't. It failed the 15-minute 50, and then you could see it came all the way back down. But here's the thing, and this is where when my classes and I talk about just because a trade didn't go the way you wanted it to right then, and maybe you got spanked or whatever, but that's where you should have a stop and tight stop. Keep an eye on it because maybe there's something coming later, and I definitely saw that with this one. I even told my subscribers, like, guys, there's something here, and I got to find a way to get back in because look what happened. Not only was it a double bottom right there, and not only was it a double bottom with divergence right there, it was a trampoline move. Price was underneath the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator stayed above zero. That is a high buoyancy, high pressure trade setup that I love. That is my bread and butter right there. Not to mention we had a squeeze. We still have a squeeze here on the daily, and then I talk about my elf shoe. You can see that here. Here's your leg, here's your heel, here's the arch of your foot, there's the ball of your foot looking for that elf toe. And so far that's looking pretty good. And then I could see that on the 15-minute kind of coming in, this week, last week. Notice price kind of went down, Moxie indicator started going up, and then we got price to cross the 15-minute 50. Now I was looking at this. I'm an end of day trader. I try to stick to my rules of really just putting money on at the last hour or so of the day, and I was seeing space. And actually, if we zoom in on this one, you can see space was looking good. I was like, yeah, this is looking good. I definitely want to get in. I want to get in. But I wanted to stick to my rules in the day so that my subscribers know when to expect me to put a trade on. And then the thing started taking off, and I was like, man, okay, we just got to get in. We just got to get in this thing. Let's go. And so, we caught it up here a little bit. So 15.8, a little below $16. But I was like, man, that's what I get for waiting too long. This thing looked like a great setup, and it just started to move before the end of the day. So we still got it. It worked out well. I'm happy with it. I would imagine this thing should keep trucking along and doing all right. And since I was kind of mentioning the slow stochastic, notice here, we have a higher low versus a double bottom on the daily slow stochastic. So that is something to pay attention to, and that's the same thing I'm talking about with the market. All right, you can even see that here on the hourly chart, price down, and the slow stochastic was starting to trend up. It's in the oversold region and starting to trend up. Imran, I think I got into that basically, what we're seeing, how I've had to, for the class, how I've had to step down into the 15-minute time frame. Usually in a typical market, when the typical trend is doing well, I like to trade on the daily, hourly. Well, in this market, I've been having to get into the 15-minute time frame quite a bit, and then a lot of times things will shoot up, and then they'll fade down, and they'll shoot up, and they'll fade down. And then what we've seen recently, and this is really good that we've got a lot of information coming here, we've been seeing a lot of flags lately. And when price gets way too high up and very quickly pulls away from its moving averages, then you get price needing to stop, and it will either flag sideways to support or it'll come down to support. And now that we've had all this time and all this material, I'm able to collect that, and now I can actually show good current recent ticker movements that I can now show and educate on. So it's been really, really cool that I've been able to do that now. John, can you clarify that? What do you mean me? You talk about the Moxie indicator, or you want the subscription service? So let me know what you're asking about that, how to get it on your computer. So NCHL, so that is Norwegian Cruise Line. NCHL. No, it's NCHL, right? What am I talking? NCLH. I always type that one wrong. I don't know. There's like something dyslexic about that group of letters for me. So the cruise lines. The cruise lines, let me kind of just put this all in a category. So Thomas, as far as the Norwegian, you got the cruise lines, you got the airlines, you got hotels, you got Dave & Buster's, you got the casinos. They're all kind of moving in the same way. Let me show you this, because if you look here, let me get the, is this the one? Yep, there we go. All right, so if we look at the weekly and the monthly, what's happening here is again, what I'm going to say here covers basically that those 4 or 5 different categories, sectors, is that they're working on a double bottom on the weekly chart, and they're doing what I call the elf shoe. So here's your leg, here's your heel, here's the arch of your foot, there's the ball of your foot, and I'm looking for the elf toe to come out of this. Basically, they're doing right now the double bottom. They are coming down. They are testing the previous lows, and it looks to me like they're trying to get going. The way this works and the reason this works is because the distance between 8 and 21 is too big. And so this little first move up was just trying to close that gap and then come back down, retest the lows, then move up. Let me show you a couple more examples. If you look at AAL, so American Airlines, you guys see this? Look at that. You see how it's doing the same thing? Down, here's your first bottom, there's the arch, there's the second bottom, now we're looking for a move up. So just give it a little bit of time. Even when, if we go there, so when the casino, same thing. Now, they do it in different ways, but the principle is still there. You can even see I got some writing on there, but here's your leg, here's your heel, here's the arch of your foot, there's the ball of your foot. Now I'm looking for that move up. Basically, what's happening is this is the second bottom. That is the retest of the lows. Now, if we go down to the lower time frame charts, what does that look like? What are we even seeing? Because this probably looks real disastrous on something like the hourly chart, and it is, depending on where you got in. Notice how price never got over the hourly 50, okay? But what it's doing on the daily chart is what I call a trampoline move. When price is below the 50, and it doesn't matter what time frame, but when price is below the 50 and the Moxie indicator is above 0, that is a trampoline move. That's exactly what I showed you on SPACE, SPCE, that trampoline move on the hourly chart. These things are all doing this on the daily chart, and so watch these. They are starting to set up. I'm keeping my eye on them because I can see what's happening on the weekly chart and then the daily chart, and there's a high pressure, high buoyancy setup that I believe is happening and coming, and you want to catch that because that is the second bottom, and usually after that second bottom is finished, that's a confirmation that price doesn't want to go any lower, and then you start getting the next really good solid move up, solid trend up. Not to mention, if you look here on the daily chart, you are at the lower third ATR. Price doesn't tend to stick there for too long. And if we look, say, ALL, since that was one of the ones I referenced, sorry, AAL, not Allstate, we want American Airlines. Notice the same thing. Now they're doing this in different configurations, but the principle is the same. Notice for this one, it's decided to actually bounce off of the daily 50. Moxie indicator is above 0, and now we're looking for price to keep resuming. Now we gotta wait. We gotta still keep to our rules. We gotta still find our entry on, say, the hourly and the 15-minute time frame, which they aren't there yet, but they're darn close. And let me show you play as one more. Oh, John, well, if you can go to facebook.com, so if you can just watch Facebook off your phone, then that's where you can get us. So yeah, just watch us on Facebook, watch us on YouTube or Twitter, and as long as you have a desktop, that's how you can find it. Now this will be recorded, so if you want, you can be watching me live right now, and then once we're done with this, it'll be recorded. You just go back to our Facebook or YouTube channel, and then you can come find us when you get back on your desktop. So notice, play. What do we got? This is a trampoline move. Price is underneath the daily 50. The Moxie indicator is still above 0. Now we are starting to see some benefits here on the slow stochastic. Now again, we see the thing coming. We see this process happening on the weekly and daily time frame. But we need to actually wait for it to happen on the hourly, because right now we are still running into a downtrending hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator is still below 0 with no positive divergence. So even though we see this coming, you got to give it time in order for these to work out, because they could take a while. We don't know. They could even go down a little bit further. They have not turned yet, but we see them coming. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. All right, let me kind of catch up and see what you guys are chatting about. Yeah, so Imran, that's kind of what we're talking about here is we've got a whole bunch of sectors and we got a whole bunch of names, hotels, airlines, casinos, Dave & Buster's. I don't even know what category to put that one in. All these things, cruise lines, are starting to do the same thing. And so whenever maybe the news comes out or maybe something changes with the global pandemic environment or who knows what, something, there's got to be something as a catalyst probably that will do this. But what we can do is we can watch these things coming along and we can see these things happening. And we just have to wait for the right trigger. And a lot of that times that trigger is when we see a good surge of volume and a good pop up in price. I'll show you now. Granted, I had to kind of play around with this one, but let me show you two that I had to manipulate a little bit. I was in, got out, had to get back in. So Codex. And let's get this one. So Codex, this is what I'm talking about. Notice here, here's the Moxie price trigger. And then you also see the surge of volume right behind it, looking pretty good. And you see how there was more volume coming in here on the daily chart. So Imran, as far as your question of like, well, how do I know when these things are happening? How do I not miss it? Well, the Moxie indicator does pretty well. And then you also have to know that, well, price is coming into a moving average. So I'm looking at this. I'm seeing that price is probably likely to start moving and starting to bounce. I got to look for that go signal. Now on the hourly chart, price was getting trapped by the hourly 200, but it kept getting supported by the hourly 50. So you just look for that. And then I took this one right here when with big old price move up. Now, as it turns out, and this is what I cautioned with us, is that there was a big gap between price and the hourly 50, and that's when it broke the 15-minute 50 and came back down. Now, I kind of chickened out a little bit on this one, but it actually did a trampoline move. Price bounced right off of the hourly 200, and price was underneath the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator above 0, and that's a trampoline move. And you can see, boom, there it goes. So even though I was in and I'm out, I got back in because now after we have this trampoline move and support here, this looks like that's pretty good. This looks like a solid move. And now I would imagine price should be following the 15-minute 50. So that looks pretty good. And that was kind of the go signal that I'm looking at. Now go, speaking of go signals, and we look at this one, and we see here, now this one has been messing with us, but I still think that the overall sentiment is there. Number one, look at the volume. Look at that big volume spike. Look at the volume yesterday. There's a lot of volume here. So those are some things that you need to pay attention to and look into. But when I was watching this, I kept seeing price coming here, and then it came into the hourly 200, and it kept finding support at the daily 21. So all these things were telling me, look for something. Something's going to happen. Everything's looking really good. And then basically when price just went straight up and then flagged right here, I was like, yeah, I think that's the go signal. I think let's do it. And as it turns out, we went in, and then it held the 50, held the 50 again, and I kept looking at this, and I kind of was like, oh, I don't want to be wrong on this one. So I pulled it for a little bit, and then sure enough, it actually worked out and continued to rise. And here on the 15-minute time frame, you could see that price held the 15-minute 200, held the 15-minute 200, and then popped. So now that it just went up too fast, too quickly, hit the third ATR, whatever, but it's now back here to the hourly 50. Everything is looking pretty good on this one. So that's kind of the stuff I'm looking for. You want to see pop up, and volume. And when you start seeing that, then that's kind of telling you that's where that something's going on. I'm trying to think if there was another one. Oh, how about this? Tandem. So I was a day late on this one. I was so frustrated. My dad and I were actually talking about this because I wanted to get in around here, and we were kind of talking like, well, it kind of looks extended. We got a big distance between price and the hourly 50, and it's kind of up here. And so he was right. It actually pulled back, but then I just didn't jump on it quick enough because look at this. Here's a trampoline move, just like what I showed you with Codex. Price underneath the hourly 50, bouncing off the hourly 200, and look, the Moxie indicator above 0. Trampoline move. And then kind of like space, I was just a little bit too late because if you look, let's see, so Monday was right here. I was just about to get it on Monday, but I wanted to just see a little bit more confirmation. I wanted to see that go signal, even though I was in a trampoline move. And then a couple hours into Tuesday, the thing just ripped. I was like, oh man, I was so close to that thing. Like, should have gotten it. Anyway, we just jumped in and said, hey, let's go see if this thing has any more gusto behind it. So far, it's still up, and we're just going to keep this and ride this. If it pulls back a little bit, shouldn't be too big of a deal. It is making new all-time highs. It has got a lot of volume behind it, so I just don't see that as too much of a problem because if you look at something now, completely different sector, so disregard the sector, but when these things get going, if there's enough oomph and enough volume behind it, sometimes you can just buy the pop up. Let me get this kind of configured. So like Etsy, look at Etsy. It popped up and kind of wedged up here, and then it just took off and never went back. Notice it bounced off the 15-minute 50, and then since then it's just been going. So I'm kind of thinking that Tandem might be kind of the same way. And notice the increased volume on Etsy. So looking pretty good there. And let me just leave you off with one more. And if you look at OKTA, we just got into this one yesterday and nailed it perfectly. So same kind of deal. Imran, your question like, well, how do I make sure I find the right one? Well, look at the daily chart. We've seen this thing kind of going sideways, percolating for a few days, and notice that price right there kept bouncing off of the daily 21. That's a good news. And then look at this. We have a trampoline move on the hourly chart. Price underneath the hourly 50, the Moxie indicator above zero. We got a squeeze. Go. And if we look at the 15-minute time frame, I did get this one right. I didn't miss out on this one. Notice we got it right here as price was getting over the 15-minute 50, pulled back a little bit, and then took off today. So that one right there, that one's looking real good. Very happy about that one. And that's just the process. That's how I trade, and that's how you make sure you get into something that looks pretty good like that. So thanks again, everybody. Always enjoy talking to you. That's my little half-hour spiel for the day. If you have any questions, we're going to be posting links in the chat box here, but come over to simplertrading.com/Moxie or simplertrading.com/stocks. Those are where you can find the Moxie indicator. That's where you can find my class. And then we've got a lot of information for you out there. And as I said, I keep seeing a lot of people, I'm hardly even talking about it. And everyone's like, hey, when are you going to be coming out with another class? And I was like, okay, we'll be doing this. So I guess the first class was a real hit. And I just want to show you all the various things that I've learned or had to adapt to, and had to adapt my trading style to this current market. So we do have a new class coming out August 1st, and trust me, you won't be missing it. You'll be getting plenty of notifications. We'll be talking it up, and we'll be posting everything about that. So until then, yep, thanks again, everybody. MRAM, always good seeing you, and thanks again to everybody else who is out there, and see you next week. Just careful about that little pullback. We'll see if something happens next week after the 4th of July. But until then, have a good 4th of July weekend, and I don't know, can we see anybody? Go have fun having maybe a virtual 4th of July. So we'll have to see what happens. Maybe fireworks on TV.